Welcome back to Love Always Lisa's spin-off show, which is come about basically because I've had that many people, interesting people with amazing stories, wanting to come on to the podcast, and the podcast is booked up until April next year. So I thought, well, because I don't want to miss out on lots of amazing conversations with some amazing and fantastic humans, I thought, well, why don't I do a few videos for YouTube? It's no different, except you get to see who we are this time. And obviously I've got guys that are sponsoring me to do the podcast. So I thought, well, the same sort of thing applies really. I should mention them on here too. So the people that make it all possible for me to do the actual podcast are Kerno Media Agency, the lovely Gavin Harris. He's my main sponsor for April. I nearly said May then. And then I've got 3 supporting sponsors as well, who are You'll Know When You Get There, Your Beautiful Day, and MH Fitness. So thank you very much to all of you guys for sponsoring me. And it also would be, even though this has got nothing to do with the Cornwall channel, the Cornwall channel are the guys that helped me put the podcast together. And today's episode's gone out, and it's awesome again. If anybody hasn't listened to it yet, have a listen to Drew. Lovely man. But today, I've got somebody that you may or may not have heard of before. I met this lovely lady. I was going to say Lely. My words are really not coming out today. I think I had too much sun yesterday. So I met this lovely lady, Kelly Swaby, through networking, and we've had lots and lots of chats, and we've got on quite well, and we always have a little giggle. And Kelly is going to come on to the podcast, but she won't come on until next March now, I think it is, or April, March, because because of time. But I thought, well, actually, it'd be a good time now to get her on and have a chat with her here. And then by the time we get through almost a year, to see and reflect on what's happened and what's changing, because obviously she's got lots of stuff going on. So, welcome, Kelly. I absolutely love the name of your business, the Self-Kindness Coach. It goes hand in hand with Love Always Lisa and the kindness side of things. So it would have been ridiculous to not even have you on here. So I'm so excited to talk to you. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm super excited to be here as well. It's always good talking to you, Lisa.
Oh, bless you. Well, the other day we had a little catch up anyway, didn't we? And we obviously, so I know what's happening for you at the moment. But how's lockdown been for you? Everyone's got different views on it all, and I'm not asking you to, express what your view is, but how has the experience been for you? What challenges have you had, if you've had any?
I think when someone else asked me this question, a similar question last week, and I had to think about it because it just feels like, what on earth has happened over the last year? And I think that's how I've kind of spent a lot of my time, feeling like I'm on a bit of a roller coaster ride. And so some days have been fine, and it's been like, okay, everything's going to be all right. Let's crack on, keep smiling. And then other days you're kind of like, this is never ending? What's the outcome going to be? Where am I, feeling a bit lost? And so, I think since the beginning to last March, I've definitely felt like I've been on this kind of emotional roller coaster ride. And when I was talking to the other person and reflecting back, we both kind of decided it's a bit like going through the grieving process. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Because they say the grieving process is like a roller coaster ride, and there's been real similar emotions. So there's been sadness, there's been frustration, there's been a bit of guilt, because I suppose the guilt for me is that I feel very fortunate. I live in a lovely place in the country, right by the seaside, in a beautiful house. We've got lots of space. It's lovely. And so there have been times where I've thought to myself, I feel very, very fortunate. and the guilt was like, there's people far worse off than me. So kind of that internal critic saying you shouldn't be feeling like this. But then, me being me, I kind of did a bit of self-coaching and thought, actually, emotions are good, aren't they? Don't keep them in. Just kind of go, okay, recognize that, I'm not feeling okay at the moment, and that's okay. It's okay to have those emotions. It's okay to feel uneasy. It's okay to feel a bit lost. It's okay to feel anxious, because look, none of us have faced this, what we've gone through over the last year. So it's absolutely okay to have one day where you feel, oh yeah, and then the next day it might not be so great. And that, I think, will continue for a bit. So I don't expect to kind of come out of lockdown fully and go, oh yay, and kind of forget about it. I think there's a lot of healing to take place.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think I think one of the main things for me has been that I changed my mindset very early on, and once I basically told myself that this was going to go on for longer than what they were saying on the TV, then when it didn't stop when it was supposed to, it didn't affect me. And I realised this is the thing, you get to know your own voice, don't you? Your own inner voice, your own patterns of things. And I think the Christmas time was really difficult because we had those 5 days that I was kind of thinking, I've got 5 days now. Brilliant. I'm going to see my grandkids. I was so excited. And then at the 11th hour, it was like, actually, you've got 1 day. And we can't travel 270 miles in 1 day. And it really upset me. It made me, I came off social media only for a couple of days because I don't think that I'm ever going to come off of it, to be fair. But it was just that I was just so fed up and just sad and was angry and all sorts of things. And then, like you said, I sat there and I thought, it's not going to change anything, Lisa. You need to just, try and make sure that you look after yourself and just, change that mindset again. So I told myself, we're not going to be coming out of this till, after Easter. So like now, I'm kind of at that stage now where I'm like, do you know what? It's actually working kind of the way I thought it was, so I'm not feeling uneasy. If we end up having another lockdown, probably we'll have a heart attack and be like stressed again. But just moving those goalposts that were actually, you put them there and you think you're aiming to that, but actually if they're our own, we can move them as we need to and shouldn't really feel guilty. So
no.
Yeah, so
And
that's
it
kind of what I did.
just kind of, I suppose it's take every day as it comes, and it's okay to be frustrated by it. Like, we haven't been able to see our family or our loved ones or our friends, and we're social creatures by heart, aren't we? Even if you're an introvert, there's still that social aspect. So just go easy on yourself.
Definitely. Exactly. And so, just give me a brief introduction then, and anybody that's watching, listening, who you are and what you do and why you do it, basically.
Okay. So obviously I'm the self-kindness coach, and what I do is I specialise in helping professional women be kinder to themselves, really. And we do that in a number of ways, but one of them being helping women avoid burnout, so that via I suppose tapping into their inner wisdom. And when I say inner wisdom, it's really kind of tapping into what their body's telling them. So I work with the menstrual cycle, so menstrual cycle health, hormonal health, and I also love to tap into the science of happiness. So it's kind of just really helping women understand themselves, understand their bodies, and respect their bodies, and with that, help them thrive.
Cool. So this is the big bit that I like. So this is where you've got a good chunk of time now to talk, and I get to listen to your story. Now obviously I kind of know Kelly's story anyway, and that's the reason why she's on here. And I think that the whole reason why I do the podcast and I'm doing this sort of additional the show on YouTube is because there are a lot of people out there that have got their own stories, but a lot of them lead back to the same things that have helped them along the way. And as Kelly is now the self-kindness coach, being kind in general to people is something that a lot of us do. But when it comes to the kindness of our own self and that, it's always difficult. It's really, I had a conversation at a networking event this morning and was talking about, you know, I can receive, I can give, but receiving, whether it's a compliment or whether it's a gift or, you know, anything that's somebody else is giving back to me, I really struggle because I think deep down inside, I always thought I wasn't good enough to have that comment said to me or to have that gift or, and I'm sure there is a deep rooted reason in there, and I do know several reasons which I've spoke about before and to do with looks and such like that, things that people say to you. But your story is a little bit different, Kelly. So do you want to share your story? I'm just going to leave you to really talk. But if I think of anything interesting while I'm listening to ask you, that's not going to, you know, be too invasive, then I will. But it's your turn, lovely.
Oh gosh, okay, over to me. Okay, so I suppose in hindsight, looking back, I've always been my own worst critic. So even when I was younger, similar to what you've just touched on, I never saw myself as good enough. And that started off in my teenage years. So I was always kind of comparing myself to others, looking to my peers and my friends and going, oh, I'm not like that. Okay, I've got to work harder. I'm not like that. And one of the key things with that is I was, I suppose one of the key points actually in my teenage years is I was quite late in starting my period. So you obviously at school, you're at secondary school. And as girls, as we did, we kind of used to talk about, oh, have you started your period? Have you started your period? And I was like, no, I was late compared to a lot of my friends. And that, when I look back now, was a bit of a catalyst for me to start questioning myself, going, oh, is something wrong with me? Like, why has everyone else started their period and I haven't? I'm late. And so, but when I did start my period, that was like a big celebration. And I was like, yes, I'm now part of the gang. I have a period. That didn't last for very long, that celebration, because when I hit 17, my periods became excruciating. And so I became very ill quite quickly. I was starting to have blood clots on a regular basis. And I found myself in and out of hospital just through the pain, really. So I was put on the pill. No kind of explanation, really, just put on the pill. And I was thankful. I was like, yes, good, something, please help me. I just couldn't, as a teenage girl, you just didn't want to be feeling like I was. And that reinforced that something was wrong with me. So I'll keep going back to that because that's part of the underlying piece of why I do what I was doing now. So it was, again, reinforcement to say, actually, something's not quite right with you. None of my other friends seem to be suffering like I was. Again, something's wrong with me. So I went on the pill. And then I spent a number of years kind of okay. Obviously, you don't have a proper period when you're on the pill. But what I was then suffering from was frequent urine and kidney infections. So I was having this throughout my time at university. I was kind of ignoring what my body was telling me. My determination was I really wanted to succeed. I kept trying to, I suppose, prove to myself that I was worthy and that I could be a success. But by doing so, I was completely ignoring how I was feeling in myself. So it was kind of a mask for me. It was the mask I wore. Look at this, I've got a degree. Or look at this, I've got my job. I've got my qualification as a personal trainer. Oh, look at this, I'm now a manager in sport, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to do it. But every time I achieved these milestones, there was always something in me going, that's just not good enough. That's not good enough. So I suppose I was running two parallel things. There was the thing with my health, which I was completely ignoring because I wanted to prove to everybody and myself that I was going to be this successful person. And both were kind of not doing me any favors, really. And so when I was 25, I decided to come off the pill for personal reasons. And then all hell broke loose, to put it mildly, which I now know was because I'd spent so long on the pill. I'd obviously suppressed what was going on within my body. And then I spent 4 years going back and forward to the doctors saying, I just don't feel very well. Like when I'm coming towards my menstrual cycle, and when I'm coming towards my period, I'm being sick. I was known to collapse. I was in excruciating pain. The headaches were migraines. I just didn't feel very well. And they put it down to stress because I was working in central London. I was loving my job, but again, that inner critic was still telling me I wasn't good enough. So I spent, like 4 years trying to hold down a successful career in management within the university setting. I was in sport at the time, so as you can imagine, it was a very physical job. Even though I was running the sports complex, it was still very physical. I was quite a hands-on manager. I was kind of in the plant room sorting out the swimming pool and stuff, and on the gym floor, etc. And I just didn't want to admit to myself that I just couldn't do it. So I was constantly pushing against my body, which was telling me, you need to slow down. You need to take some time out here. No, I'm not slowing down. I need to be a success. I'm not good enough yet. I need to do more to prove that I'm good enough. Anyway, cut a long story short, at the age of 29, I finally got diagnosed with endometriosis. When I was diagnosed, I was told in the recovery suite, well, we've removed the polyp because that's why I went in for the operation in the beginning, but you've also got endometriosis, just to let you know. So if you've ever had an operation, anyone who's had an operation, you know you're not really quite with it in the recovery suite. Kind of still on the anesthetic, and you're not feeling your best. So I just didn't take it on board. I was like, oh, what's endometriosis? I've no idea what that is. I've never heard of it. So, and because they didn't put any kind of importance or onus on it, I just thought, oh, all right. So I went back to doing what I was doing. I went back to working myself into the ground, completely ignoring what my body was telling me. And if you, on the surface, Lisa, if you saw what I was doing at work and how people were responding to me and providing me feedback and encouraging me, I was a success. I had moved at this point into student services. I'd got promoted within the university I was working in. I was working closely with senior management. I loved what I was doing. But I thought the more hours I put in, so at this point, I'd be at work for 8:30 and I was going home, leaving the office about 6:30, 7 at night, put a commute on top of that. And I still wasn't done. So when I got home, I was emailing, checking my emails, making sure team's all right, like all of this. And my health just started to deteriorate even more, and my periods became even more unmanageable. I'd find myself in the toilet at work, kind of on all fours, really embarrassed to say anything to anybody. And at this point, so this was kind of in my going into my 30s. At this point, I'd married the love of my life, which was fantastic. So I was super happy in that respect. And then we decided we wanted to start a family. And so we started on that journey, and it became pretty apparent after a year that something wasn't quite right. Again, because I wasn't really clued up on endo, because no one had kind of given me any information. I just thought, whatever. And so guess what came along? That inner critic telling me something's wrong with me. It's about me. I just can't be right. I'm just not very good. I can't be a nice human because I can't have kids. Everyone around me was having children, and so the pressure was kind of building for me to become a mum. And internally, I was literally falling apart, if I'm honest. And so when was it? Kind of 34. That was when I first had, I suppose, my first real setback in terms of anxiety. It got to such a point that anxiety had become unmanageable. And so I spent about 2 weeks in a really not a good place, and I put it down to losing my granddad, who was my rock, really. He'd kind of supported me throughout my life, and we sadly lost him in 2013. And so I'd kind of, I just wasn't in a good place. Guess what I did? I threw myself into work, completely ignored what my body was telling me and what my mind was telling me. And so over a year, so between 2014 and 2015, I started to suffer from insomnia. Wasn't really telling anybody. My husband obviously knew a bit, but I wasn't telling him to what degree. I was becoming petrified of everything, like literally everything. And I just felt uneasy about life, really. And then in 2015, I think it was September, it was either August or September, I got mugged in London. So I got attacked from behind. It could have been a lot worse, but it was on a moped. They hit me on the shoulder here, and I went to the floor. They grabbed my phone, and then they drove off. No one helped me. It's in London. That's not to say everyone in London doesn't help. I was just unfortunate there was no one around me to help me. And got myself home in a state, but I got myself home. And that was really the kind of cherry on the cake, really. I then started to suffer from what I now know as intrusive thoughts. And this, what I now know, was around my period. So every time I was becoming premenstrual, I was suffering from intrusive thoughts. And I just, it got worse and worse. And because I'd always had this thing that something wasn't right with me, and I'd not told anybody since I was a teenager that I'd felt like this, obviously these intrusive thoughts were reinforcing that I just wasn't right, that something was wrong with me. And so I threw myself into work. What a surprise. And so I ended up doing longer hours.
I can see a pattern here.
Yes, there is definitely a pattern. I just didn't want to face any of the kind of physical and mental stuff that was happening to me. And work was kind of where I felt I could throw myself in, and I was doing well there, even though I was ignoring all the positive feedback. And then it came to Christmas, and I'd booked myself 3 weeks off. Was really excited for these 3 weeks. But then as soon as I had that time off, it was like something just unraveled, literally unraveled in me. And I came home to Devon to see my grandma, who had Alzheimer's at the time. And I went into the home that she was in, and I saw a lady in this home, bless her, and it completely freaked me out. I don't know why. She was at the top of the stairs and she was just staring at me. But something in my head said to me, I'm not well here. So I'm really not well here. I'm feeling incredibly scared. I'm scared of myself. I'm scared of other people. I just don't feel very well. But I didn't tell anybody. I kind of just sat with it. And I did that up until Boxing Day, and then literally I just said to my mum and my husband, you need to take me to hospital. I don't feel safe anymore. I feel like I need to be sectioned. I don't feel safe to me. I'm having these awful intrusive thoughts that I might hurt myself or somebody else. You need to get me locked up. And that's what I told myself. I told myself that I just wasn't very well and I just wasn't safe. So I was adamant, Lisa, just take me to hospital. And at first my mum and my husband were like, no, we'll be okay. You'll be okay. We'll get some help for anxiety. I was like, no, I just want to think. So eventually it got to such a point that I just couldn't calm myself down. It was just constant panic attacks that mum and my husband said, right, we've got to get her to hospital. And for the first time, sat in A&E, I felt safe. And I was like, okay, so please somebody help me. So they got the mental health team down. And for the first time, someone explained to me what was actually happening to me. And I'd never had this explained to me. And that was I suppose, the first step of having these bricks that I had been carrying lifted off my shoulder. I was put on medication to bring my anxiety down. I then had the community mental health team. They didn't section me. I didn't need to be sectioned. I had told myself that. But I had the mental health team come and visit me. And they visited me for nearly 2 months. It started daily, and then it kind of, they dispersed and it got reduced because they knew I was okay. And my mum also found a cognitive behavioural therapist in London, because we had to wait for 6 months if I wanted to go through the NHS, and my mum and my husband knew that I couldn't wait 6 months, so we ended up having to go private. I would have ended up being in hospital if I'd had to have, just because of my own personal situation. And so I started CBT, and things unravelled. I know a lot of it came from my childhood now. One of the big things was facing the fact that I couldn't be a mum, and that for me that meant I was a failure. And bearing in mind, I've been telling myself I was a failure all my life since a teenager. And just living with endometriosis, it gets to you. It's one of the most painful conditions out there. The NHS rate it in one of their top 20 painful conditions. And it's hard. It's hard. And the impact it's had on my life, because I just couldn't work like I wanted to work. So again, I was telling myself I was a failure. I couldn't become a mum. So again, I was telling myself a failure. I was then mugged. I was a complete failure. And so all this stuff happened. And obviously, my mental health took a downward spiral. However, for me now, looking back, although it was my darkest hour, it's why I do what I do now. And so the healing journey began. I learnt very much so that you have to put yourself as a priority. We cannot work on empty. I know that full well. You cannot work on empty. And if something's not right within your body, you are your own best person to know that. Like, I just completely ignored it and thought it was just me. There was something wrong with me. But no, there was physical stuff going on as well. And so, I've been on a journey ever since. I'd actually got into coaching before I became poorly, in personal development coaching at the university. But when I became poorly and then started on my healing journey, I discovered health and life coaching. So I went off and got a qualification in that. And at first I just did it to help me kind of understand kind of my own health and wellness. But as time went on, I thought, no, I actually want to help others with it as well. So that's where we are, really. And that's how I've got to what I do now. And that's why a lot of a core piece of what I do is helping women listen to what their bodies are telling them, and really embrace our bodies. Because period health and hormonal health for forever has been it's been shown to be a weakness for us, when in fact it's not. It's an integral part of what we are. So I help women embrace that. So
well,
that's me.
you just blow me away, Kelly, because I'm sat here, and obviously I know your story, but just listening to you, and I got goosebumps when you said that, even though that was your darkest hour, it's led you to where you are. And the reason I got goosebumps is because this is something that I hear a lot from different people, even today. I spoke to Vic Williams, Vic? And he's going to be doing a talk, and he did a post today, ironically, on LinkedIn, that his worst time actually created his best times. And it's, everyone knows that I started doing all the different things that I've been doing because of my husband's mental health and how it's impacted on me and my family. And and that's evolved and changed as time's gone on, and I've grown with it. And the goosebumps are because it's just, you know, it's always seems to be that we kind of find out these things about ourselves and realize that we're good enough
Yeah.
after a long time of thinking that we're not. And that's why I do love Always Lisa, because to me, I just want other people to watch and be inspired by the likes of you and all the other guests. Because if there's somebody out there that's young, for example, so my own daughter at the moment, she's just found out she's got polycystic ovaries.
Okay.
And she's devastated because she's got it into her head. That's it now. I'm not going to have children. I've got many friends that have had different illnesses that have made them so that they couldn't have their own children. And I've watched their journeys and I've watched how they've battled on and what they've gone through. And I also know that endometriosis is like one of the hardest things that they diagnose. They take so long. Like you said,
Yeah.
this has gone on from when you were a young girl right
Yes.
the way continuing, and that not giving the advice and not knowing. And I just love the fact that you have taken this journey of yours and you have turned it around now to help others. And being the self-kindness coach couldn't be any better title for you, you know. I just think it's wonderful. And I think this is to me, peer-to-peer support when you've experienced something is far greater than having somebody professional with a textbook to
Mm.
give you the answers. And that's not because there's anything wrong with that, because obviously the professionals are the professionals for a reason. But when we need to have those conversations that maybe some people don't want to have and talk
Yeah.
about the blood and the guts and all of that side of it, it's kind of like, oh, but that's the reality of a lot of stuff in life, isn't it? And
Yeah.
if we as adults can't talk about these things, the kids are never going to talk. And we
Yeah.
want the younger people to not be frightened to speak up and say, I've got this wrong. And I think it has got better. I think
Yeah.
generations going on, it is getting better.
Yeah. There's definitely
Um,
more movement with
but to have more people
endometriosis.
like you, yeah, for sure. And I've even through networking, I've met so many people who've, said similar stories to yours. Not necessarily gone on to be a coach and things like that about it, but just that they've experienced it and how hard it is. And this is the thing, nobody ever knows what's going off in somebody else's life, do they? We
Yeah.
meet people every day, we get a snippet of what's going on there, and we will only share what we feel comfortable to share. I'm an open book and I'll share anything with anyone because I'm a big believer in the fact that if we can share some of our most darkest parts, it hopefully will help others to feel that they can talk as well and not shut themselves off. And like you said, throwing yourself into work. I can relate to that because that's with Matthew's mental health. That's all I've ever done is go, I'm going to go work. I'm just going to do work and
Mm.
shut it out because it's far less painful to
Yeah.
be working and talking to nice people and doing nice stuff than
Yeah.
to actually facing the fears and the worries. So no, I love what you're doing. So what is next for you then, Kelly? What have you got coming on next? I know you've got this new brand. I love the logo, which all of this, by the way, I will put on my website, which is lovealwayslisa.co.uk. There'll be a page on there with some information about Kelly, links to all the different socials. So please do get in touch with her and have a chat with her if you've got any questions. I'm sure she'll be keen to answer. But yeah, so what's next? What have you got planned?
So I do coaching anyway. So I offer one-to-one coaching as and when anyone needs one-to-one coaching with me. But I'm also just launched an online course, which is the self-kindness course. And that's purposely designed to help women be kinder to themselves and kind of stress management. We look at hormonal health, etc. So there's that running. And then I'm going to be doing workshops over the next few months, looking at specific things around women's health. So namely perimenopause, menstrual health, hormonal health, and kind of stress management, really, because stress is a big thing that, especially for women, impacts our hormonal health. So I've been running workshops, both myself and also with another lovely lady who you kindly connected me with, who I absolutely adore as well. But our stories are very similar but very different, but we've definitely gelled, and we're both incredibly passionate about women's health. So that's super exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Now you see this is why I do what I do, because to me, you know, Susan, the other lady, Susan, when I met Susan, I connected with her, and although I don't have the similarities that you two do, and then when I'd spoken to you, and I thought, I think you just need to talk to each other, because I'm pretty sure that you've got the same sort of personalities. I know you're different age groups, but for me, it's all about the people, and you know, whether I do it right or wrong, to me, it's the right way, and that is finding out more about individuals and connecting them, and then you go off and do your own magic. And all I've done is been that person that's put you together, because based on what you've given to me, what I've learned from you by the chats we've had, and the same with Susan, and you create the magic afterwards, and this just makes me excited, because I'm kind of like, love always Lisa's having a baby. It's like, it's so cute. I love it. That's just, I feel excited, because it's just like, that's just madness. But it's really good to know that more good comes from good, because that's what I kind of want. I just want it to kind of carry on going, and people sharing the love and the kindness and being authentic, because these are simple things. They don't cost anything. You know, it takes us time. It's like us sitting here doing this. We're doing these things in our own time, but at the end of the day, you know, time is precious. But this could potentially be seen by somebody who's really struggling and doesn't know where to go or what to do. And if they see you, they might think, oh, well, this lady knows, and I'll have a chat. So I'm just, I'm blown away by you. Every time I speak to you, we have a giggle. We always have a laugh.
We do.
But I just love, I love your story and the way that it's turned around for you. And I'm really, really rooting for you, Kelly. I think that you are going to go on to do awesome things with this. And I know that you and Susan together are going to be a formidable duo without doubt. I'm telling you, it's honestly, you have got to watch out, because you know, I don't know what you're going to call yourselves, but you are going to be pretty cool at this, and it's very exciting. So obviously I will make sure that I get details of Kelly with regards to her courses and things that she's doing as well, so I can share all of that. But just keep doing what you're doing. Keep being kind to yourself, because being kind to yourself now means you're being kind to everybody else.
Well, none of us can pour from an empty cup, can we? So kindness starts here. Kindness starts at home.
No. Exactly. Well, that's it, my lovely. So your first experience of Love Always Lisa, albeit differently, not in the podcast studio, but next year we will get back together. I mean, obviously I'm going to see you and speak to you between that.
Hopefully, yes.
You
I
don't
need
get
to wait till March.
me. But next March we will catch up again, because it will be interesting to see how your journey has gone and all the different things that you've done, because I'm pretty sure that, you know, people are going to see and hear a lot more from you. And as I say, anybody out there, male or female, because it could be husbands, you know, trying to help their wives and struggling and not knowing what is going on. You know, this is life. We're human beings. These are the things that happen. You know, we don't just magically have babies, and we don't just magically do everything. There's all stuff behind it, and as much as none of us want to talk about all of those things, they happen. And you know, having a little bit of knowledge can help save a lot of pain sometimes, I think. So
very much.
Anyway, well, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm going to say bye to you now. So that's it from Love Always Lisa. But I will be back. I have got a guest I'm filming with tomorrow called Jamal, and he's from America. He's got a fantastic story again. This is what I love. I'm literally talking to people all over the world, and I'm like, how the hell did I to go from just being LBB to all of a sudden chatting with all these awesome people. Totally honoured. Anyway, mwah, love
Thank
you
you,
lots. Thank
Lisa.
you very
Love you
much,
too.
lovely.
Speak to you soon.
See you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.